this conversation forward, not just the read-through on Accenture, but what does it really spell for the Indian IT sector? We've got Moshe Katri joining in on the show right now. Moshe, hi, great to have you on the show. It is a positive read-through, like my colleague was just mentioning about Accenture. But, just delving in a little bit into the details, because the demand environment pretty much remains more of the same. And Accenture does not see an improvement in overall spending by clients. How would you summarize Accenture's performance?
Good to be here. I would say Accenture's guidance raise, if you will, is a reflection of what we've heard in India last week. We actually spent some time visiting about 15, 20 companies throughout last week, 4 days, 4 full days, 4 different cities. The feedback in general is that the conditions are actually conducive for some sort of an improvement in discretionary spending on calendar 25. Accenture typically is a proxy for the space, just given the fact that they have a very large penetration within the Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies globally. So some of this optimism, if you will, is a function of recent rate cuts. On top of that, a new administration that's coming in that's being viewed as more business friendly. All these are going to help. And then on top of that, it seems that the budget cycle itself will not be pushed out, will not be delayed this year into calendar 25. So these are all relatively positive indicators for the sector. So demand is improving. We're not talking about hyper growth, but compared to where we were a year ago, it seems that we're headed into somewhat of a better growth patterns, I would say, in calendar 25.
All right, but Moshe, if we delve deep into Accenture earnings, yes, indeed, there has been a positive read-through with the Gen AI tailwinds as well, because Gen AI implies more opportunity in the cloud adoption as well as data standardization. So wanted to have your take that how do you see this particular segment growing as well as what could be the likely read-through for the Indian IT companies, what could be in the store?
Yep. So there are two things that I think are relevant for the industry today. One is Gen AI, and the other one is the impact of GCCs on the industry. Gen AI in general, in our view, will probably somewhat cannibalize the more mundane work that's getting done today, whether it's testing, some of those kind of people-intensive tasks, if you will, that will get automated. On the flip side of it, a lot of that money will be redeployed into fresh projects. Now, this will benefit some companies in the sector, probably more on the digital side of the business, companies that have engineering with software engineering skills. These should be in a pretty decent shape on the analytics side. Any company that should be able to manipulate data and prepare it for that data to be fed into the Gen AI accelerator, these companies are going to be actually in pretty decent shape to benefit from the cycle. So, some companies will benefit, some of them will not, just given the fact they're not going to be ready from a skill-based perspective to get it done. So in our view, Gen AI will actually create another spending cycle that's going to be beneficial for the sector. And this is very similar to what we've seen with cloud 4 or 5 years ago, when in general there was a lot of concern that cloud will cannibalize anything that's related to custom software development work. But ultimately, cloud created a very large chunk of integration work. And in our view, Gen AI is also going to be another one of those spending cycle creator down the road. But again, it'll benefit some companies. Some companies are going to, will probably lose business because they can't really do this kind of work. Accenture, as of last year, is spending about $3 billion on building that platform. 4 or 5 years ago, they spent $3 billion on their cloud-based platform. So they seem to be very much upfront or in front of those new technology cycles. And they've had a really good track record in getting there and being able to monetize those cycles.
Right, Moshe, I just wanted to understand then, given the fact that the way how the commentary is coming in for the Accenture, the read-through that is coming in,
Yeah.
how does that place the Indian IT company in particular? I know that my colleague Shrishti also did speak about it, but I wanted to understand more closely. If you have to talk about the Indian IT pecking order, which company do you think stands well to benefit from what is happening? And also, let's not forget that come next year, we will have a new regime that will be at helm in the United States as well. So you have to take that also into consideration.
Yeah. So I would say that the tier one offshore vendors have really built a very impressive set of accelerators and Gen AI related applications. So from our perspective, they've done a really good job in terms of getting set up and getting ready for when Gen AI kind of work starts really scaling and start materializing into a large, part of the business. So I think in general, the industry is ready. The industry has been very good in terms of predicting some of those trends. So I'm pretty impressed with what I've found. In general, I would say the digital IT services companies, anywhere from EPAM, Globon, Endava, ThoughtWorks, they're also in very good shape to kind of get there. So I'm not really worried about anyone that's kind of being left behind at this point.
Okay. And yeah, it's reflective on the way the Indian IT stocks as well have been performing at least the last few months. Moshe, great to have you on the show. Thank you for joining in with that analysis on not just Accenture, but what those numbers actually mean for the Indian IT pack. And seems like we're going to be in good stead at least today. But coming back